What's up, guys? Welcome to Inside Traders. This is a show where we quest for infinite money by using the most dangerous tools on the market to so far only get burned, but eventually to learn how to invest and trade like the best players out there. Welcome to the show. My name is Caleb, and I am very much a learner myself in this area. But I have been spending a lot of time with this AI, Gamma Delta Theta. We talk, and I've come up with some ideas on some stuff that I am like pretty excited to build. I can't show too much of it right now. It's all just kind of like in development, but this show is kind of like the market side of what I'm trying to do. And I have another show called AI Office Hours, where when I have a little extra time, I do a live stream where I kind of show you how I use AI to build like all the stuff that I'm talking about on this show. Primarily, I am interested to see if I can abstract the same types of methods and tools and even research and data and analysis, anything I can think of, that hedge funds and like quants and scalpers and swingers and traders and anyone out there who's got an idea on how to predict the price movements in the markets. Not so much like, just kind of more as a game than anything, for the ultimate purpose of being able to like just improve my overall trading. But also, it'd be cool if we could kind of make infinity money. As a sidebar, I just basically think that money stopped being real like as soon as the Optimus robot was introduced in 2032. And since then, we should have been on the credit system. But I'm just telling you now, so like it's in the books. I really do think that like the Tesla bot's going to come a lot sooner than that. But like I really do think that if we keep going with AI and automation through robotics, then we are going to make the price of bread like, I don't know, zero. Like everything is going to get so cheap and easy to reproduce that we'll have to find a new system to motivate, or I don't know, like whatever money is. It's a great store of value. And whether, I don't think it's all going to be Bitcoin or even crypto, whatever it is, it's got to be something that provides a baseline. And that's really where we're going to get the best from people, is by giving them a baseline. But most people aren't incentivized to do that. You got a lot of people that are rug pullers and lesson teachers. And there's a lot of people out there that they got to get their shit out somehow, right? Like the world didn't like get the way it is on accident. Anyway, we don't have to get dark. Let's check out the flow. We see these arbitrageurs doing their thing. So I've talked about this many times, but like this is a pattern that is interesting. On days that they buy the SPY, they'll put the QQQ. Like I said, I think that it's possible to develop and aggregate a bunch of different signals into something that can kind of like prompt you. Of course, like tied in with like an LLM eventually or whatever. But when you go to make a purchase, it would do a quick pre-purchase review. And that review would be quite extensive. Like every technical you can think of, even news flow and whatever you can do to basically increase the signal, the accuracy of the signal, as like proven through machine learning or some kind of like, I don't know how. The thing I think is we crossed a threshold like a while ago now. And in that threshold, everything just became we have like this incredible tailwind. And so people take everything for granted, not least clean water, but like, definitely the iPhone. I mean, so many of us remember what it was like before the iPhone. And I remember pulling up the almanac and finding where I was on a map. And like that took minutes and was frustrating work. And now you don't even know where you are. Like the blue line, just follow the blue line. And, you just got to be like a little rat with the maze, just wherever it tells you to go. And so like, I think we have this incredible tailwind from AI. I mean, is the most recent one that is like really interesting what it's capable of. And I just see this pace of development that things are picking up speed. And it's because we have so many irons in the fire, and we've had them in the fire for decades. So it's like all of time in history, we're just like monkeys eating and killing each other. Then we like figure out, hey, if we like trade, it's actually way better for everyone. We kind of discover the invisible hand of capitalism. Of course, like lots of agriculture and language happened before that. But like at some point we invented society and culture and a way of doing things, a custom, and everything was regulated in a way that made it so it was possible for us all to participate in markets. And those markets could be anything, not just money. And so like people were animals. If you leave a baby in the woods, it would be an animal, very close to an animal. It wouldn't be able to speak English or whatever language, right? Be an animal. Like what might make us different is our ability to speak. That might actually be the thing that separates us from animals in some way, not like entirely, obviously. But like, think about that. If you leave a baby in the woods, what is it? Is it a human? I mean, certainly it's a member of the species, but like, I don't know what it is. It's not an animal, but it's something different. And so anyway, point is, I think language is probably a pretty big deal. And I think the special property of language models is like kind of like figuring that out or whatever, is like all this extra emergent properties can come and be useful, and that is like this tailwind to the species, which is like really accelerating. And it's been accelerating for like a long time, but like nobody ever did anything from then their parents until like 1910. You could argue like the 1700s, maybe not really. Nobody ever did anything different from their parents until like 1990. Right? And in the course of a few decades, revolution after revolution, and now it's like a fish in water or whatever, we don't see these waves, we don't feel these waves, but AI is a wave in the same way that I think social media and the iPhone and the internet, and just like this constant trend towards connectivity that is a part of our species history. And we start where like nobody, I mean, first we like kind of like probably are grunting around a fire, and then the grunts make sense and they resonate, and then maybe we move and we sing and we dance or whatever. Somehow encoded into all of us, we started talking, right? Nobody can tell you how it happened, but like whoever, maybe they got ideas. Nobody knows, but maybe an anthropologist has spent some time thinking about it for a little bit here and there. And so however it happened, people started talking. That's crazy. And then that is just the end of it. Like we never stopped sharing ideas and making it more and more easy to like build out and participate in this marketplace of ideas. And so you're like grunting around a fire, and then you're actually talking. And then I think the next major step is probably reading and writing these are all things we take for granted. Like everyone could read and write. Nobody could read and write for all of time in history. Like nobody ever for all of time in history could ever read and write. If you could read and write, you're like one of the very first people in human history to ever be able to read and write. It was like not even legal. Like information has always been guarded, and people confuse they guard their information, and it's because it's so much value. It's so valuable. It's power. And the more you know, the better informed decisions you can make, the more optimized and efficient you can be. And that's like a lot of what this show is about, is like sharing that there is like a way to benefit actually from all this information that we know. Even just, I like to talk about like the order flow on Tesla. Okay, look at this. So we get a bunch of calls right into close. I don't know, like we see calls inputs, so I really can't say, but it's been bullish for a while. And I just think Tesla is probably going to be at least as important as Apple. It just depends on who ends capitalism. Who's going to do it? Somebody's going to do it. We got to go to a credit system at some point. Like if work is infinity, what are we doing? Like we should be putting all those resources that we're going into labor that can be easily replicated through generative AI and or Optimus bot or whatever it is, the Tesla bot. And that is like essentially all work is done. So what do people do? Well, they languish in despair in their nest of comforts. They wallow in it. But those that kind of can overcome that and like not given to like the nothingness of not having a purpose or whatever, when the Tesla bot just gives you everything you want, then I think that is where people just find their own purpose. I'm being a little bit like facetious. And what I really mean is I think that it's good for people to have to work. The problem is going to be that they won't have to, and anything else will be like a lie. So like they're not going to have to work in order to create bread. Why? Because bread is infinity. We have infinity bread. Like what are we going to do when everything that a human hand is capable of can be done with an automatic machine? Yeah, we're going to have to do new things. Like maybe they're way better at painting. Maybe they're like way better at it. Like what if they're way more creative than us? Like everyone likes to pretend like these AIs and LLMs is like, they know. It's like, you don't know who you are. Like, what the fuck do you know? Anyway, sorry to swear, but like nobody really, I think, understands the technology that they're building it. While they're building it, it's only with hindsight do you like begin to understand things. And we just haven't had hindsight as a species because everything happened in like 1970. And then especially in the 90s or whenever the internet, big time with social media, big time with smartphones. Since then, it's been like also just like a wave of improvements in other areas. But here's what I think. I think every industry has millions of guys that basically want some of this cheddar flow, and they're willing to work to get it. And otherwise they'd be bored anyway. And so I don't know what they'll do. They'll have to figure that out is one of the problems. But we should build the Tesla bot because that's a great problem to have. It's a great problem to have. And so all of these enterprising young men wake up every day with something to prove. And they're going to build shit. They're going to do things. They're going to add value that lasts to the system, to the corpus of technology and literature and culture and whatever it is that humans build and create. They're going to be making their contributions. And like it's cumulative. And the more that they do that, like it has a growth factor to it. That's the really interesting thing. And so, of course, we could like, you know, really set ourselves back and do all the time. But even with all those setbacks, what all of your fathers and fathers back probably 20 more times have been working on has been accumulating. Like clean water is basically a miracle that nobody appreciates. You can't appreciate it. I mean, you could appreciate a hot shower. You couldn't explain a hot shower to anyone in history. You know, like the king of freaking France, since there was a king of France, you can't, well, okay, actually, what I just said is totally wrong. They had hot showers in Roman times, and so that's not true at all. But like, you know, just like the ease and the comfort, I'll tell you what you couldn't explain to a French king: a Krispy Kreme, or a freaking Chick-fil-A, or a IMAX huge screen render. You know, like we have experiences now that no human in history could even dream of. And it's all just like, whatever. It happens. Yeah. And so we're like it doesn't even matter to talk about it because so much more stuff is happening so fast that like we'll never be able to appreciate it because we'll just have more stuff coming down the pipeline. And so what do people do when they don't have to work? I think they work a lot harder because they start spending their time and their energy, and especially their attention, on things that they actually find interesting and compelling. And naturally, they find that they have a lot of energy for it. And so, like, whatever you have a lot of energy for, you're going to do a ton of. And that is kind of like a pretty good guide, if you ask me, as far as like how you should spend your time. It's like whatever gives you the most energy. So in my personal opinion, money's fake, and we should have been on the credit system since 2032, but, you know, like it was impossible to convince anyone at the time. Whoops. Are we still on? I think so. Yeah, I think so. So order flow, Tesla. Yeah. Definitely, I think that we should be doing what we have the most energy for, because money is like a little bit fake. If you look at what these guys are doing, they're throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars, so like people's yearly salaries. They work the whole fucking year for that. Holy shit. That's their whole year. And like these guys are just YOLOing it into the market. And maybe it's on a credit spread trade or whatever. Maybe they've limited their losses in some other way. But it's still just funny to see the numbers. People can't even fathom the numbers. I was watching the dark pool prints today. Wow, these are really low numbers. How can that be? Wow. Oh, that's why it can be. Okay, there we go. Boom. So I have a lot of sources of order flow now because I just find it to be, one, like interesting, two, it's pretty predictive. And so you can see here we have these dark pool prints. These are interesting. So everything that I'm doing is like getting aggregated real time into a socket connection. And so there's no polling, there's no latency. It's actually perfect because it's better for everyone. Like I'm not hammering servers, like doing pointless polls. I'm getting the information exactly as I need it. And so it's pretty freaking cool. And long term, I would like to create something where if I had, this whole thing working, with an audience and we were all like hanging out, then maybe we could build up I could like build the order flow into a visual way so we could see it. I mean, we could just watch it like this on Jetterflow, and that's pretty cool as it is. And so, yeah, but I think it'd be cool to get it really native. And then the cool thing about like processing every trade, so I process every trade that happens in the options market, is I should, although I don't really, but I should be able to always know the exact bid-ask spread at like the nanosecond or whatever. Now it can change second by second, but like especially with high volume contracts, I should be able to like have pretty good liquidity without overpaying. It hasn't happened yet, but you know, these are all like, I think the advantages of like, I didn't know you could buy access to this stuff. It's pretty cool. So we could check out the dark pools and see if they're pooling. Okay, 2.5 billion at 427. Was that at a bottom? So that might have been a sell, right? I don't know. Let's see what people were doing into close on SPY. Yeah, it seems like that was the sell. I like the market is interesting. I think that there's something awesome about the Bitcoin protocol or network in that there is no regulation. Like there's no governing body. There's no sideline rules. Like if you think about this, this is crazy to me. There's like 3 levels to the market. The retailers, who are just like the bag holders for everyone else. These guys, which is like the option traders that are just like throwing tons of premium into the market, and this is what's actually moving the stock price. And then there's these guys, which are just like think about this. A normal stock trader, what are they going to do? Like if you're an aggressive trader, maybe you're like churning through tens of thousands a day. That would be like a lot, I think, for a lot of people. These guys are doing millions a day. These guys are doing billions a day. So there's just like, why aren't these markets totally liquid? They should just be 100% liquid, 100% transparent. All this sideline action is basically like inside trading, I think. A little bit, but you know, I don't know. I don't think it's like that crazy or big of a deal. Also, I don't think that's ever going to happen, because I think by the time that ever could happen, the end of work will have taken place through the optimist spot. But for real, like you do have to consider your monkeys grunting around the fire. You're talking, you're reading and writing. You have a Gutenberg revolution in the Bible and the printing press, and now with religion, and this is like what's so awesome about religion birthing science, is you do have like this very deep desire to understand reality and to answer the fundamental questions. Like that's what's so cool about religion. They want to answer the fundamental questions. And like scientists will be like, well, we know, until like something proves it wrong. They're like, oh, well, now we know that. But like nobody knows. All we can do is try to explain it as best we can. And in terms of like the religions, because otherwise if somebody knew, then they would be right and they could prove it, you know, like using the scientific method, meaning that they could create 100% reliable results and accurate and whatever, like their predictions would come true 100% of the time or whatever. And so, but also it's something that is unknowable. It's unknowable. People can know for themselves. They can like have their faith in what they believe is true, but like they can't know. And for anyone other than them, they can know for themselves, I guess, in as much as anyone can know anything. So yeah, like that is kind of my thoughts on why I want to build this little bit of a game. And I think it's possible, which is like, why can't I trade along with these guys that are doing, like, let's look at NVIDIA, see what's going on. So again, like these are risky freaking contracts, and they're all at like 100 to 500 grand that they're thrown into close. on a Friday. Like what? Anything can happen. On Monday, it could gap down, it could gap up. Like what? That's crazy. But they have systems and they have all these different things. So like one of the systems I came up with GDT, which I'm in the infancy of being able to express, I thought I'd get it done in a weekend. It's been months and it's not even close, in fact, because it's always expanding. But the basic idea is that I think the right way to play with options is just to have a hedging program. And I think this is a hedging program anyone could write themselves, but I might sell you mine because it's like a lot of work to build it. But what the hedging program does is it loops all your positions every ideally 10 milliseconds, but right now, a couple seconds, and it recalculates the delta. In fact, it just gets like the delta from a known source, and ideally would actually also have its own like offline calculations for like quick things. Anyway, like there's a bunch of tools I'd like to build. One of them would be a slider where I can see how values change across many positions as the price changes, so that I could like spot cliffs and stuff, because that's how options work. But like there's a lot to build. And so why can these guys take on $500,000 of risk going into close? They probably have a millisecond by millisecond program running, or maybe just a spread trade, right? But like in my world, wouldn't it be nice to have a WebSocket connection to the exact trades, which means the overnight as they came in, how they opened, or whatever happened. Like, that those trades are stacking up in the order book overnight, and that is going to be a gap to the upside or the downside for these trades that are like mixed trades. And so my idea on how to still be able to like participate in that is, with options, you can always use them as collateral to basically sell. So you actually don't have to sell out of your options. That disrupts your cost basis. For example, you would realize a loss if you were like actually needing to hedge. Instead of that, what you do is the second you need to hedge, or even like if you had a gain and you wanted to protect the gain, the second you need to hedge, the point is it can fire in a deficit is the point. It's reliable. It creates a credit, so it always executes. But the system is looping every position every 100 milliseconds or whatever, getting all of the Greeks, and then indicator by indicator, it's selling and buying across the chain. And so like with your option is collateral, I'm pretty sure you can always use up to like your entire equity that's available in that moment to sell deeper into the money, deeper out of the money and closer to time, so more risk. Because that collateral will just act as, it's collateral. Or that equity will collateralize that purchase, which is like an incredible thing to know. And I had no idea. I've been doing this stuff for years. I didn't know that. And so like whatever. But like the reason that's so awesome is because if you can always create a credit, you're in the game. Like what happens then is, what do you do with that credit when you're hedging? It just depends on where you're at. But like if you were really wanting to like capitalize, you really thought there was going to be decline, you wanted to do an aggressive hedge after a win streak, you would like also buy some like puts. And how you size and strike is all really difficult. But I do think it's, you can create rules. Like it depends on what you're hedging. If you're hedging delta, maybe it is better to sell. If you're hedging delta and you've had like a 3-day win streak, you probably do want to sell out of the money calls. If you're hedging delta and you've had a 3-day loss streak, maybe you want to sell deeper down, closer to the money, because those out of the money calls are going to turn into like little nukes or whatever. and if there's like a big rebound in the price. And so then if you're theta hedging, you might sell like 2 contracts up in the chain. I don't know. Like, it's going to be a lot of testing, but I think that it gives you a ton of options. That's the thing I love about options, is they give you something you wouldn't otherwise have. So if you buy an option, wouldn't it be nice if you had this program called a put that puts itself, and all it's doing is it doesn't do anything if your delta increases. That's like great. And if your delta is at 99, it never fires once ever. It's a totally only reacts when needed. And that is when the delta declines, or the theta or the gamma, whatever we're hedging by, maybe even vega. I don't know. I can definitely see how you could hedge theta, because I felt those theta collapses, and those are real. And so it'd be nice to like get ahead of a theta collapse for sure. And then also vega, yeah, like a volatility collapse. I don't know like quite how it can be done, but I do think that what's basically a miracle of options is that you can always borrow against your existing options, but only while they still have value, which is why you have to be reacting in such real time. So yeah, that's basically the idea of like hedging by the Greeks. And I'm starting with delta, and it works pretty good, but like it's still really hard to make it like reliable and automatic. The current method is to have an index of a previous day's close, and then if it drops below that, that's when it hedges. Now it's been running in simulation, and I'm testing it in different areas, but and in production for sure. But like the monitoring works pretty well. And so it only will activate when there's a hedge gap created. And if the delta goes up, there's no hedge gap. And if the delta goes down, like the price, here's what's the thing that might not be obvious to people. The price can go down without the delta going down. The price can go down like 10% without the delta going down. That's why it's so much better. And so it's all like just a matter of actually, in theory, all this is possible. It's not like super easy to get it all done in practice or whatever. But I am getting closer for sure. So that'll be a fun thing. If I can build it on the air with you guys, then maybe I could sell it to you. If it works, you'd buy it. Holy shit, would you buy it? I can't see why it can't work. Like the math, the arithmetic is like all just so easy. And also, well, it's monitoring. I can just see what it does. And it only sells calls when I would want it to. And so now, if it's selling a call and it's just taking, I know it's like, first of all, I would love to have puts expire worthless. That is not my problem. My problem is not puts expiring worthless. Like that would be a great problem for me to have. I'm a call guy. And so I just don't want it to, So I have the system sell calls, which I don't mind doing, but like I definitely don't like buying a put. And so I have it do all that kind of like grunt work for me. And then I just focus on the buy side. And then if the system is working accurately, if it truly does what I think it's capable of doing, then one day, right into close on Friday, exactly what this guy did right here, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to buy a contract for like, I don't know, it'll be a good contract, like $500, something like that. It's got to be enough so if you gap, you feel it. And so like, and then the idea is whatever happens the next day, the system will be able to react like instantly on every side actually. So it's just always protecting the long delta. So if like in one interval, if in one loop, the delta declines like 30%, it's immediately going to sell that much equity in a call. And then depending on the rules that I probably like adjusted over time or whatever, this is all very fantastic. I'm not even anywhere close to being able to do anything like this, but this is the idea of it. And so like so yeah, I sell that, I get the credit, I use that credit to buy the put, and they're both somehow need to not get collapsed from theta decay while being cheap at the same time. So like, for example, I don't know, that's going to be hard to do. But like, imagine though that the price then did go against you and that $500 contract was about to collapse to like $1.50. Whoa. Well, like now the exact opposite happened is like you have like this inversion where that 30% is going to become like 300%. And it will be $1.50, but that will be like $9.80 or whatever. And yeah, that is possible. That is so possible. There's no reason technically why it's not possible. It, I believe, is actually being done all the time. I think that's probably happening all the time. And so, because here's what happens is you can lose that premium as well. Like if it just goes up and then it thrashes around, not really, not with delta hedging, because like, okay, suppose it goes up then, but you already like have 30% of your equity nuked in this sold call and put. Just let it expire worthless. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Because as it thrashes around, it's going to normalize the delta such that you have to account for the theta decay. This is why you have to like hedge by the Greeks individually. Yeah, you have to have a hedge program that is communicating and coordinating, well, rather like just its own scope. Because what's so beautiful about that is as these values do change, they will change to benefit the goal of each hedge. So the delta hedger, the theta hedger, and the gamma hedger are all just focused on their piece, and they have their own like kind of contracts and stuff. But and so really there is no like real central coordinator that has to exist other than to wire these guys up or whatever, because all the logic is done on the actual Greeks as it changes. And so that is the technical part that's been proven. It works totally. And so now that I know it can be done, I'm pretty excited to see like if I can start, because the only thing it's going to do is add protection. That's the only thing it's ever going to do is add protection. And then one day I'll have it like, it can't do worse than me, I feel. But for real, that's the ultimate goal of everything I'm talking about here is like, money's fake. What? You work for money? That's crazy. I would too. Like I have to. I do it when I have to, for sure. And so I'm not saying that money is fake today. It's definitely very real. And it's probably going to be real for a long time, probably hundreds of years. And what's fake though is people like scrounging their whole lives for like every penny. It doesn't have to be that way. You can just open a non-margin account and buy a couple of shares of Tesla and wait for the Optimus spot to get to like version 10. And you should be doing pretty well. And the set it and forget it method I used my whole life until I found this. And then I used the churn it and burn it method. Now we're going to use the freaking light the fires and kick the tires or whatever. Because the thing that like you just got to appreciate about these contracts is how volatile they are and how much the price moves. And so you really do need like some kind of a system to be able to like even like play in that lamb, but also the reward is like so asymmetric. So like if you have this upside potential, first of all, let's just say you get lucky and you buy the bottom, boom, like that's crazy. It would be like a tripling. And so now let's say you're unlucky and you buy the top. Well, this put program, the put that puts itself, it will normalize the delta. Like you're going to lose something because it activated, but you're not going to lose everything. Like, I think that's so possible to build. In fact, it's not only possible, I have used it in production, and it totally works exactly as you would expect it to. Where if you sell a call, that's going to change the position delta by a minus is a positive. So the balance is equal. And if the balance drops again, then it sells another call and it's equal again, and it maintains that balance. And that's all these hedge programs do. It's not complicated at all. Like, which contracts to buy and sell, though, that's complicated and difficult, especially like accounting for your positions, and even just like, ideally the day and the micro and the macro or whatever. But anything is gonna work in the end if you really are like needing to hedge, because it's going to introduce negative delta or negative Greeks. Like, it's going to introduce the inverse of what is hurting your portfolio. And so that's exactly what you need, is like the inverse. And so I'm trying to like build that into a program and then sell it. And that would be pretty fun if it actually worked. But I can't think of any reason why it can't work. Everything that I've tested seems to be that it's like totally technically possible, and it's just a matter of building it. And it makes sense to me that nobody would have really built it before, because of everything I talked about before, which is like we're these monkeys around the fire, and then we can learn, then we can talk, and then we can read and write, and then we do mass media, newspaper. Everyone's reading the newspaper. Now everyone's like looking at their phone, staring into their palm. Can you imagine being a dog? Like, what are they doing? So we're networking our minds, and the incarnate version is coming soon with Neuralink. Boom. And so like that is like the beginning of our shared nexus, I think. But like, for sure, we're networking our communications and growing a communication network that's ever more it's like informative. I don't know. Dense and like valuable in terms of like our constant ability to just improve our communications. It's incredible. We literally went from what animals do. They communicate a ton, right? Body language and even vocally. Lots of animals, parrots, like lots of animals can talk to some degree, just not like us. But then we took that way further with reading and writing. Like, that was such a step up. That was such a good move, because that makes it so you can save what you say. And like, now you can read it back and you can write it, and you can practice talking even when you're not talking. And so like, then we start like reading and writing, and all of this is like deepening the epigenetic like positive feedback loop in people. Like, you want to know what the Flynn effect is? It's freaking reading and writing or whatever. It's all the stuff accumulative. And that's why money has to be fake. We cannot be at the ultimate tailwind of this like incredible like millennia, what is after centuries? Yeah, millennia long tailwind of technology, where it's like culminating, where we're rebuilding our minds. Like, Sam Altman is rebuilding a brain, while Elon Musk is rebuilding eyes, while other people are rebuilding whatever else. And it's all going to come together in an Optimus bot, and then we're going to jack into it with the Neuralink, and we'll be in the Matrix. Finally, then we can really play the game, which is the ultimate purpose of this program, Fundraising for Afterlife, where your digital avatar can live and roam and be safe and free forever. And everything is archived and stored, and our pre-processors work with you throughout your life, through the decades, to gather all the sentiments of your life and everything that you are into your digital recreation that lives forever with everyone else in Afterlife, and a super cooled cube in the center of the earth. And that is not really, it's just like in a building, but like there's a redundant one on the moon, obviously, but like still, it's we need to fundraise for this Afterlife program. And part of that is gonna hopefully be, creating this put that puts itself. So if I can do it, I'll do it live for you guys, and that'll be fun. And yeah, like I think it should totally be possible. All right, see ya.